छोटे सा पेपर रहता है उसको अपने ज़बान पे रखते हैं, वो 12 से 13 घंटे का नशा है।
The intricate web of drug abuse has dug its talons deep into our schools. It's closing in on our children. The problem has reached crisis levels as the police look the other way. Mirror Now's shocking investigation reveals how petty drug dealers are targeting teenagers in schools, luring them into a drug habit and then forcing them to sell their friends and classmates in order to support their addiction.
आप किधर भी रहेंगे साउथ मुंबई में, वो आपको आगे आपके पास डिलीवर करके जाएगा।
ज़्यादा 100 रुपीस का होगा सर।
In our investigation, we will prove to you how petty corruption and inefficiency among the police allows drug peddlers within close quarters of our schools. Drugs are easily available all over our cities, and they are being sold with full knowledge of the police.
नहीं मला पैसा ना लगता है सर, तेरा पैसा है सेटिंग कुछ है ए गाड़ी खड़ा किए ले चलो फिर डेरिंग घर जाओ क्या है आज कुछ ज्यादा है क्या? ये साथ में लगा दिया ना, लूँ कि नहीं लूँ तुम जो बोलो कि 10 मिनट बाद गाड़ी लगा उधर आगे, कुछ नहीं है आगे लगा ना, लगा गाड़ी आगे लगा क्या इधर।
And when we reached the spot, the dealer was already waiting for us. It all happened in a few seconds.
Brother, come fast. Come here. Give me 2 complimentary. Fast. I'm paying you 500. 2 complimentary, please. Arey, give fast.
No complimentary. Give 1,000 rupees.
Arey, I have only 500, brother, please.
Give 1,000.
Arey, I have only 500 only. Give na, brother. Arey, I have only 500. Give me back then. Arey, give fast, brother. Cops will come. Give fast now. They are not coming now.
No cops. Cops come.
Arey, give one only, yaar, if you have.
While cocaine is an expensive drug, we found out that drugs like LSD cost as little as 2,000 rupees. Prices of ecstasy, crystal meth, cocaine and heroin typically range between 1,000 to 10,000 rupees. The cheapest is marijuana, a small pouch of which is available for a mere 100 rupees. Mirror Now's investigation has proved the sale of drugs is rampant, brazen, and is taking place with the blessing of local police in Mumbai. It's now up to those in government to act quickly before an entire generation of India is lost to this horrifying crime.
Well, here's the worrying thing. Our reporter spoke to several drug dealers who said that they deliver drugs home. They said that they actually get people and children addicted to drugs by giving them free samples and then insist that they sell it to their friends. But the most shocking part was the beat constable who allowed these 2 boys to walk past him and access the train track where he knew the drugs were being sold. He said, "Saab ki gaadi khadi hai, jaldi jaake aa jao 10 minutes." Which means that the police is aware and doing very little to protect our children. Joining me on the show this evening, Dr. Eijaz Ilmi, leader of the BJP, Swaranjit Sen, former DGP, Andhra Pradesh. We also have Satish Kulkarni, Superintendent of Customs in GST Pune, who was with the Narcotics Control Bureau. Sujay Kantawala is a senior lawyer who was also appointed amicus curiae in the case of Udta Punjab. Nambiar is the concerned parent. We also have a recovering drug addict who joins us on the show. Mr. Dhanraj Vinjari is the former Assistant Commissioner of Police, Mumbai. I welcome all of you to this show and I thank you for your presence. If you're watching at home and you want to ask a question to anybody on our panel, you can log on to involve.in, leave your question or your comment. It will automatically pop up on our screen. It's the fastest way to be part of this debate. You can also call us on our phone line. I'm going to start with Mr. Vinjari. Mr. Vinjari, the beat constable who allowed these 2 boys to go ahead and buy drugs, he said, "Wahan saab ki gaadi khadi hai, jaldi se jaake 10 minute hai, jaldi aa jao." What is your reaction to that?
This is simply horrible. I can't imagine this kind of people in uniform can do these criminal activities. It is not only he's doing some favor to those boys, or they might have played him for some request and he is obliging them, but this is a concrete crime he is committing under NDPS Act. He is supporting the activity, supporting the consumer to go and buy a drug. It means that he has a clear-cut knowledge where the drugs have been sold, and with this knowledge, he cannot go scot-free. I cannot deny the existence of black sheep in the force, but still such kind of exhibition, and it is coming on the camera, it's really horrible. It's very alarming situation. The superior should immediately take cognizance of this issue and see that the person who has committed this mistake, not a mistake but a crime, should get an exemplary punishment.
I want to take this over to Mr. Swaranjit Sen, who's in Hyderabad right now. And Hyderabad's facing a huge problem but I'm very happy because there's been a bust. At least now we know what the problem is, Mr. Sen. But the fact is that there are beat constables in every street who are allowing this to happen for a bribe of 500 rupees.
Well, let me say one thing. One of your announcers said that this drug problem is there in Hyderabad and the police is looking the other way. First of all, I would request you not to make such sweeping statements as if the whole police department is involved in it. It is not. There are certain black sheep who are horrible people and they will be dealt with. Now, what is why is police not being able to control this? That is an important question. I feel that the enforcement mechanism has to improve. And some time ago when we had other kind of problems, some senior officers said that there should be a police to police the police. I think that time has come. In specific cases, when we come across a constable like this encouraging young students to go to a particular place to pick up drugs, I think it is time now that we have a mechanism, we put in a mechanism to observe the conduct of the black sheep. I am sure if the respective level of officers, the hierarchy, if it's responsible enough, they will know what kind of behavior pattern their subordinate is coming out with, and especially with the kind of money he gets, because any kind of drugs means big money for the person who's assisting or peddling or trafficking or encouraging, whatever it is. It means, and it will definitely affect his lifestyle. So there has to be better intelligence on the part of officers in the police department. And since this case has come up, I think everyone should be under scrutiny. That is what I would suggest. But to say that the police is looking the other way, I think it is very unfair to pass such comments, and these comments should not be aired. That is my sincere feeling.
No, I understand the sentiment, and I think what we need to do is that we need to join ranks over here, because we have the customs authorities, the Narcotic Control Bureau, the police. They're all well-meaning people, no doubt about it. And I understand that there can be black sheep in every force. I fully appreciate that. We should treat this drug menace as a national problem. And the easy availability, the cheap substitutes that are available. There are these date-rape drugs that have now come out, which are odorless, tasteless, and colorless. And they are misused to what an extent cheaply available. There are also drugs now which has an inhaler like an Otraven drops. You can, and in 2 to 3 years, your brain starts melting inside. So we are looking at a whole generation after us, the next generation, that possibly is going to be so badly susceptible. Other thing, what suggestion I have is that we have so many of these illegal Bangladeshi aliens, Nigerians and all which we see in our streets. We need a police personnel to have a special task force to locate these illegal aliens, because they take a lot of part in this drug activity. They don't owe allegiance to our country. So therefore, they need to be located and exploited out.
No, hang on. Isn't what you're asking fundamentally racist, Sujay?
No, I'm saying that there are illegal aliens. I'm not going on which community, which caste, from which country. They are illegal aliens. If there are a lot of these illegal aliens, you go to Masjid Bandar, Wadi Bandar, you see so many of these Bangladeshi elements over here, and everyone knows about it. There's nothing new. I'm not giving some kind of a breaking news over here. It's known. So therefore, I think at that stage, the leadership, the senior officers in the police, they need to be a little more vigilant, and the force needs to, we need more police. See, what happens is that I think there are so many people now in the city that it becomes physically impossible for even a well-meaning police force to manage it.
Yes.
I mean, how many, and I'm sure Mr. Vinjari would echo my sentiments where I'm saying, because he's been in the police, that when he was in the service and today you see there's a manifold increase in population.
I want to show you what's on our screen right now. We have, and my producer has taken it off, please put it back. There was a video that was running on the screen. That's a school. Those are children coming out of that school. And right under that school, there are these 3 people sitting there in broad daylight consuming drugs. Broad daylight. They're in possession, they're using, they're consuming drugs outside of a school. Now, we're not even saying go clean up every street corner, because we realize, and that's the school, that's what you're looking at right now, because we realize that it's a complicated city. Every city is complicated right now, and it's difficult to police every street corner. Yes. But the roads outside of our schools where our children are, Bijay Nambiar, I want to come to you here as a parent. How worrying is this for you?
You know, very interestingly, Faye, when I first heard about this drugs being sold openly like this and in the form of LSD biscuits and stuff like that, as a parent, I did not get anxious immediately because I had a lot of confidence in my own parenting skills. I want to share this for the sake of all the parents who are watching this show. Don't underestimate the power of having your daily conversations with children. Don't underestimate the importance of having a spiritual quotient being built in the kids. We have a lot of spiritual conversations at home where good and bad, right and wrong is being taught to our child. So personally speaking, I knew even if my son, he's in grade 11 now, even if he goes out and even if he's facing a situation like this where he sees somebody buying drugs, he will not be in a hurry to test it out. He won't be curious. He knows what's good. He knows what's bad. I have done my job. But when I think of the situation as a citizen, I'm grossly worried because I don't know who is answerable for this. I don't know who's accountable for this. See, if it's a health problem, I know there's a health ministry or a doctor's, or if it's an educational problem, there is an educational ministry. Who's responsible for this? The drug menace. Is there a drug committee? You know, when I look at the Child Rights Commission, I want to quote an example over here. I was involved with an education-related matter. There was a serious issue where children are being seated in a classroom where the ceiling slabs have already fallen twice and the children have got hurt. This is a clear violation of safety for children. What is a natural thing as a citizen I would do? I have complained to the Child Rights Commission. Faye, I want to tell you, we submitted the affidavit on the 12th of July. Till date, there is absolutely no response. And you know, if you go through their website, one of the things I want to inform you, along with violation, they have also mentioned safety. They are responsible. Child Rights Commission is responsible for precaution against drug abuse of children. Has Child Rights Commission been involved in this conversation ever for the last one and a half month that this whole topic is being discussed? There are agencies which are appointed by the government. As far as a common citizen, I know the Child Rights Commission is there, but they are not doing anything about it. For an affidavit that is filed, the child's life is at risk.
Let me actually bring in. We have 2 guests right now in Pune. You know, and I want to bring in the anonymous guest who wants to keep his identity hidden, and I want to understand from you, how easy or difficult was it for you as a young person to source drugs?
Can you please repeat? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, my question to you is, when you were using, and I know you're in recovery right now, when you were using drugs, how difficult was it for you in the city of Pune to access the drugs that you wanted?
So in Pune, initially when I was using drugs, it was difficult for me to access them. So what I had to do is I had to overnight travel to Bombay, where I got these drugs. I got them mostly in Dongri, in the other area. So they were easily available. You know the contact person, you know the right people where you get these drugs from. make a few phone calls, and those drugs are easily available to you at a very economical price. So these drugs were easily available for me at that time when I was using them.
And what drugs were these that were easily available?
So mostly if you talk about the synthetic drugs, then meth was very easily available back then because there was no seizure, there was no law against meth. So meth was very easily available in Bombay. And hashish, ganja, these are very commonly available in Bombay.
And that's just the truth. I want to bring in Satish Kulkarni, who was with the Narcotics Control Bureau. Satish Kulkarni, this is shocking information for the rest of us, but it's obviously not shocking for you. You're familiar with the fact that this sort of thing happens?
Yeah, actually, it was not in before last month. I was there in 5 years back. The Pune flow was not like this, but now it is means day by day it is increasing because many outsiders are coming and they're selling these drugs. And now mainly students, IT employees, they are using these drugs. And what the thing is that now everyone knows that the commercial quantity and this means what is the difference between commercial quantity and personal consumption quantity. So they are bringing the commercial quantity and selling it for the personal people, means 1 gram, 2 grams. They will say bring 10 grams, sell 5 grams, and they will have for their own sake 5 grams. It is a system now. They are in this line.
You know, and I want to point out here the kind of drug bust that we've seen happen in the last couple of weeks. Just yesterday, 3,500 kgs of heroin being brought into the country on a ship. This. I don't know. I'm not sure what to make of it. Why is that? You know, is it now? Explain to us, Mr. Kulkarni. Are these large amounts of drugs coming in right now? Is it just being reported now? Are they just being nabbed now? Was this always the case?
No. Keep in mind that let me tell you that drugs will not be scattered in India. It will be re-exported through some container.
Okay. So
hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this will not be used in India at all because I had booked a case from the courier company. The origin was from the South Delhi, but later after the inquiry we came to know that is never sold in India. It will be re-exported.
Okay. It's not be sold in India.
Afghanistan and Pakistan.
Right. Let me bring in Dr. Eijaz Ilmi. Dr. Eijaz Ilmi, you've heard, we've heard the fact that things are just getting worse. What is the movement right now from the central government on the Say No to Drugs program? Is there anything at all that has come up since the last time we spoke? Have we made any progress?
Well, I think you've been raising this issue for a long time, and I've been on your debate. This is the 3rd debate on Say No to Drugs. Before I start off as to how the central government is acting on it and various governments are acting, I heard certain interesting comments that some people took offense that do not call everybody a black sheep. Let's acknowledge the fact that people who do drugs, and there are some people who look away. There has to be connivance by a section of society, by a section of the police, by a section of the local mafia, by a section of the polity and the politicians to have such a large operation functioning in most metros as we see today. Secondly, we have a drug reduction committee, a drug reduction policy. We have a GOM which has 8 ministers at the central level. The Prime Minister last September asked them to draft a drug reduction policy, which is, we had this last meeting day before. You've seen Venkaiah Naidu speaking about it. You've seen this drug bust happening. Some of us are engaged with talking to CBSE and Mr. Prakash Javadekar, HRD Minister, as to start a new awareness campaign. But a multi-pronged action that is needed is obviously is coming about. The government is committed because we understand prevention of drug abuse will save the government a lot of money in terms of treatment later on. Every government, we all talk about enough funds are not allocated. Right from a very holistic campaign to a identification mechanism where we can not only bring back the people who are already drug addicts and dependents into mainstream society by integrating them back, but a crackdown on drug reduction supply itself. That is exactly what you're seeing that is unfolding now. Obviously, good Samaritans and citizens and channels and media people are in the forefront leading this campaign, but the government also is not shying away from its own responsibility, and you see action coming and more voices joining up, saying say no to drugs and taking pledges and coming in the mainstream, because we know when senior politicians take it up, it becomes newsworthy.
Right.
And
Eijaz Ilmi, I have just one question for you. Dr. Eijaz Ilmi, I have one question for you, if I may, please. This morning's newspaper, while you say senior politicians need to take up say no to drugs, this morning's newspaper carried a story about the fact that the Union Minister for Women and Child Welfare, Ms. Maneka Gandhi, supports legalization of marijuana, which is widely accepted as a gateway drug to larger addictions of chemical mind-altering drugs. Please tell me, was that report misreported? Was there something, or did I miss something? Are we legalizing marijuana now in the country?
No. Faye, you did not miss anything. There was a GOM meeting. She's a member among the 8 ministers. Various issues were discussed, including the awareness campaign and various how to reduce the drug demand thing. We understand what cannabis is all about. We also understand that cannabis oil, legal cannabis oil in various parts of the world, is used for anti-cancer treatment. We are clamping down on internet pharmacies where you get illegitimate supply of drugs. What she suggested was that these things are happening in the Western world in terms of treatment for certain oral cancer especially, and this needs to be seen whether we can regulate something like this. There's no question of a free run for charas ganja in this country. Wherever it is, if it's illegal, it has to be clamped down on. And we also have the term of legal forms of cannabis. Okay, so wherever you go, you have Afim happening and things like that is legit. But what she's talking about is cannabis oil as a therapy. She's given a suggestion, but the government is seized of the
Let me be very clear that the government, that the police in Bangalore busted the sale of cannabis oil at Tavarekere bus depot just yesterday because it was being used on cigarettes and then people were smoking it. There was nothing health related about that, and it is going to be impossible to regulate and tell the difference between what is healthy and what is not if we can barely regulate our pharmacies in this country. I saw Swaranjit Sen put his hand up. Swaranjit Sen, do you believe that government's actually considering legalizing marijuana is a step in the right direction, or are we walking backwards?
Well, I would say what I read in the newspaper, people are reading it as most ill-timed and in that light, most ill-conceived. I don't think this is the time for any person, any responsible person to start justifying any form of drugs. We are talking about the young population being affected by drugs. Today, by saying this, it is almost like saying, well, if you don't use this but use the other drug. What nonsense. Is this part of Swachh Bharat or what? I am very, very disappointed to hear what was said and what was reported in the paper. Now, it's going to affect young minds. We have to have a no tolerance against drugs, any kind of drugs. If you want to talk about drugs for medical use, then talk in the appropriate forum when there's some medical conference or something like that, and you are seriously thinking of using something like marijuana in its medicinal form. But at this time, when we are talking about drugs affecting the youth or the young children, I don't think this is the right time to justify any kind of drugs. That is what my firm opinion is, and I think the whole statement and the reporting is most, I would say, most unconstructive, to say the least.
No, I agree that there is.
I don't think it is very good to wear this kind of thing.
I agree with Mr. Sen that there should be a zero tolerance, because while growing up, we've heard horrendous stories about Iodex sandwiches, and we have heard stories about cough syrups being consumed by the bottles. Now, so therefore, this awareness is extremely critical. That is one angle. But I'll tell you, Faye, in court, the conviction rate is so bad because on a technicality, see, the NDPS Act is a very technical act. So on a technicality, the search warrant was not signed, there was no authorization, this, that. Lot of these good cases which are made, good seizures which are made, those cases fail. And therefore, I feel that training programs on the latest judgments and inculcating that in the officers, because the officer is the man on the road. Yes. He is going to do the investigating work. If there is any error of procedure established by law, then that gives the convict a chance to escape on a technicality. Yes. That should not happen.
And also statements like we're thinking of legalizing it or should be legalized, Mr. Vinjari, this sends a very bad message to even to those police officers who are working really hard on the ground, because they're going to turn around and say, if you're going to legalize all of this, why am I working so hard? It's demoralizing.
It cannot be legalized under any term like medical treatment or anything. Like everyone knows that drugs are nothing but a psychotropic substances. Very intelligently the word has been used when the law was legislated in Parliament. Now this Psychotropic Substances Act, if you see narcotics, drugs and psychotropic substances, I think you can make a demarcation. So this point would be clear that whether we are trying to increase or trying to legalize those terms or marijuana and all other things. Let me tell you, glycodine is a cough syrup, but codeine is nothing but a chemistry name for opium.
Yes.
So opium is being used in that. That should be segregated. The pharmaceutical industries and pharmaceutical researches should be totally kept away from this mess. Now coming to Narcotics, Drug and Psychotropic Substances Act, there is a list, there is a gazette, and when such new research has been made, and now you see just like Johnson's strip, you just strip out like this and just smell something or just have it on your tongue and you are intoxicated. These type of researches are coming, and every now and then our agencies, particularly the policy makers, the government agency, research and our intelligence bureau need to be on the toe to find out which are those new substances, and those should be included in that list, in the gazetted list, that those will be the substances which will be called Narcotics, Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act. Now coming to this point, whether police is well equipped, very rightly said by my advocate friend, that really technical mistakes been done in a procedural part of investigation. Sometimes the gazetted officer is nominated. The particular officer was not gazetted officer because his name was not published in the Home Minister's Gazette in a due stipulated time. Now, I think this technicality is also a big headache for investigative agencies and for court of law also. Now, the lawmakers need to understand this as a complex, as a whole, and then to go towards making a law very stringent and very, very effective. Let me tell you, in this country, if there is a cow being beaten, there are Go Rakshak. Who is the Yuva Rakshak of this India? Why not you make drug dealing, drug selling, drug distribution, drug manufacturing is an anti-national crime and book them all in sedition and all this? Why we are unable to make such kind of law?
Always comes back.
Yeah, the cow always comes back. In fact, you know, I want to play out one bite, and this is of a social worker who works with children. I want you to listen in to what he had to say about the children who come to him for de-addiction.
अब एमडी का मामला ये था कि वो बच्चों में जो फैलता था, ये पहले ले जाते थे किसी पान की दुकान पे या किसी जगह लेके गए और उसमें एमडी में डाल देते थे, तो वो समझ नहीं आता था। तो ऐसे ही जाते जाते जब वो एक बार हैबिट कर लेता है 4 से 5 बार, 6 बार, 10 बार, अब उसके बाद वो मिडिल क्लास का बच्चा होता है, मिडिल क्लास फैमिली से बिलोंग करता है, उसके पास पैसे नहीं होते, तब वो उसको ऑफर करता है।
Biju? Yeah. How scary is that? The fact that they give him a little bit and then he comes back and he's a middle class bacha, he's not able to pay for it himself, so they say, sell to your friends.
You know what's so scary here, Faye? I was just noticing, see the amount of deception. See, as a parent, I can very clearly tell my son, you know, don't smoke, stay away from alcohol. But the amount of deception, if you're going to wrap it into something else, or if you're going to deceive it, or if a very close friend of yours is going to tell you, you know, look here, it's a fresh fruit, drink and have it, and then he's going to get hooked onto it. How much can I as a parent do? And I also want to tell you, schools are also doing a lot these days. I'm very proud of my school. You know, it is also there in the curriculum. My son was telling me they have a topic in biology called as drug and immunity. They know a lot. There is Google, there's Yahoo. Children know a lot. So it's not really a lack of awareness either. The problem is in the deception in society. You go there and somebody just takes you for a ride. We adults get fooled. Then how about children? So the question really comes back to the agencies who are in charge, who are authorized to take action. They are the ones who are supposed to do a research, take a report. Sir just mentioned about narcotic drugs, and you said a word, sir.
Psychotropic.
Psychotropic drugs. We don't even know what it means. But you know what? This term is there in Child Rights Commission website. Go to your website. They are authorized to take action.
Right. And it's really important. It's really important, and we can't stress this enough, for also the parents to understand what these drugs look like, what the what the reactions are in a child or a teenager who's using, what you need to be looking for. How can you tell if your child is using? How can you tell if you find something in your child's pocket or school bag that this is something you should be careful about? Do we as parents know what these drugs look like even, or what we're looking for? That's the scary part. I've got a message from Ishan who says, my college is considered a top college in Pune and in India, yet drugs are used in broad daylight on campus by both the rich and the middle class, and that's the scary part. He also goes on, Anthony goes on to say, what is the control that the government is doing to ensure that seized drugs are actually destroyed and don't end up back on the street? That's an important question as well. Yes, Sujay.
Yeah, in fact, if you see the recent famous case of that baby Patankar, which Vinjari Sahib will know, there was a huge quantity found in the policeman's possession, locker.
Yes.
Now, so therefore, and there are cases which have come to light where they are showing that they are destroying and burning the drugs, but something is substituted and then they are sold in the market. So those kind of issues should not happen. That is very extremely, and therefore your caller over here who has sent a message, he was exploring that angle, that what is actually seized should be destroyed under public view or under expert view. The experts should be there.
Right. Kilos and kilos of drugs being seized across the country right now. Musa is on the phone line from Bahrain. Musa, go ahead. What would you like to say?
Yes, ma'am, thank you for giving an opportunity to speak on this. Well, the problem about drugs is not only in big cities, but in smaller towns like Mangalore and other places also we have a similar problem. And even pushcart guys, they sell drugs to these school children, and many people secretly buy, and it's being unexposed. But what I wish to say is, see, we have seen many TV serials which influences the youngsters' mind. Like, that Breaking Bad, there was a serial called...
Yes, which glamorizes the use, the sale and the use of drugs. You're right.
And you want to experiment with that. See, during our younger days, smoking was fun. So similarly, the youngsters, they want to experiment with something which is more dangerous in today's society. And definitely the crime rate would go up, because you don't know what you're doing after you become a drug addict. So I think there should be joint action from the parliamentarians and the others who execute the laws.
Yes. All right, let me also take Kanak Rajande, who calls in from Kolkata. Kanak Rajan, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Day, go ahead. We can hear you.
No, see, I have been listening to your program. I follow your programs, which you have a debate with the people who watch this TV. My question is, your thought of all the people in the panel who are trying to make people understand. Some people are talking about the children, some are talking about this, some are talking. How will you eradicate the very basic thought of the logistic system, of the police and the political will? If you don't combine these things and the enforcement of officers who are there, I just want to know. It has been a long time since our independence. The future generations has to come. Didn't have in our mind all these realities?
Yes. How are we going to solve these problems? Let me go back to Swaranjit Sen. Mr. Sen, here's the question. How do we bring in the intention that is needed from the top of the country to the very bottom and to the beat constable on the ground to be able to eradicate this, whether it's parents and teachers in schools, all of us need to work together because we're running the risk of losing an entire generation to drugs.
Yeah, you're right. Now, I think one of the most important things here is the enforcement angle, the prevention. At that level, I think there's more education required for the constabulary level and various levels of leadership. I think the police leadership will have to wake up, and the higher leadership has to say that, well, they are not going to tolerate this at all. I know that if we have a good leader at a particular level, these kind of crimes can be dealt with. That's the first thing. The second thing, I think the law has to be made more stringent, and this, somehow our judicial system is like this, that they seem to let off cases on very flimsy grounds.
Yes.
Maybe that kind of education is required even for the judicial system. That's another point. And then I feel that generally at the school level there has to be a lot of vigilance, and there are reports I know of certain kids who have been reported by other kids that they ring up and talk to their peers about use of drugs and all. But the schools are waiting to get enough evidence. Now all this is most unnecessary. I think when any school or any teacher comes to know of deviant behavior of this type, that the behavior has to be discouraged and dealt with immediately. Right. Otherwise it's going to affect a number of other students.
Right. Let me just
read out at that level.
Yes.
It's very difficult.
Let me just read out some of the responses that are coming in.
It's very difficult to kick it at a later stage, yes.
Yes, at least we'll know how many people are already in the garb of daily drug usage. The menace of smuggling needs to be curbed. This is Avishek. We also have Anthony, who says the real cause of the increase in drugs is our politicians who support corruption and don't reward honest police officers. Our police patrol best teams in the best cities are fully aware of vulnerable areas, but why don't they do something? The government has to apply new strict rules to curbing drug menace. Sujay, I have a quick question for you. There was one mention of Breaking Bad from one of our viewers, and there's a lot of accusation that entertainment tends to glamorize drugs. You argued for Udta Punjab. Why?
No, actually, I was appointed as amicus curiae by the High Court to look at the film, Punjab and Haryana High Court, to look at the film and give my report whether the film should be released in Punjab, because there were a lot of agitations that this is creating a wrong impression about the state. So it was a privilege for me to view the film. I viewed it and gave my report that in fact this film is a dossier on education, that drugs are bad. It ruins your life, your family's life, your loved ones suffer. And after my report, the film was released. In fact, you'll be glad to know, Faye, that this film was so successful that drug addicts from rehab centers were taken in trucks to go and watch this film. That this is what drugs can do to you. It can destroy you, your family, your career, and it can ruin you ultimately. You know, and there's a very cheap drug known as chitta, which is available in Punjab. I mean, a lot of my friends told me about it. Yeah. Punjabi Sahib will know. Yeah. It's so easily available at any outlet, pan outlet, cigarette outlet, anywhere. And there is no restriction. It is sold to people of all ages. So that has created a huge problem in Punjab. And so therefore, Udta Punjab actually was an epic in that sense, really a documentary on what can destroy you. Drugs can destroy you.
All right, so our phone lines are still open, and we, of course, have involved.in. But for the viewers who have just joined in, I just want to play out this clip for you of a recovering addict who went out to buy drugs in Mumbai. And look how easy it was.
ओळखलेची नाही मला पहचाना लगता है तर चेहरा पहचाना चेकिंग को चढ़े अरे गाड़ी खड़ा किए ले चलो फिर डेरिंग घर जाओ क्या है आज कुछ ज़्यादा है क्या ये आपने लगा दिया ना लो कि नहीं लो तुम दो बोलो कि 10 मिनट बाद गाड़ी लगा उधर आगे कोई नहीं है आगे लगा ना लगा गाड़ी आगे लगा क्या इधर ब्रदर come fast. Come here. Give me 2 complimentary, fast. I'm paying you 500. 2 complimentary, please. Arey, give fast.
No complimentary. Give 1,000 rupees.
Arey, I have only 500, brother, please.
Give 1,000.
Arey, I have only 500 only. Give na, brother. Arey, I have only 500. Give me back then. Arey, give fast, brother. Cops will come. Give fast now. They are not coming now.
No cops. Cops come.
Arey, give one only, yaar, if you have.
500 rupees, that's all it takes, and the beat constable will tell you where to park your vehicle when you go to the railway tracks to buy drugs, and that's unfortunately where we are right now. Satish Kulkarni, when you know, obviously the drugs are coming in, which is a huge problem. Through where are the problem areas right now? What are the borders that need to be more carefully manned? Where are the drugs coming in from? Mr. Kulkarni, can you hear me? Right, there seems to be a problem with the audio. I'll take the same question to Swaranjit Sen. Swaranjit Sen, there are different areas to actually solving the drug problem. One is, of course, bringing down demand. But on the other side, where are the drugs coming from if they're being imported? Where are they being manufactured if they're chemical drugs that are being made in Mumbai, in India, I beg your pardon? And how are they reaching the schools and the colleges where they're being consumed?
Well, I know about LSD, lysergic acid diethylamide, which is the main drug that the school children and others seem to be using. Now, recently there was a Dutch national who was arrested, so we know it's coming from Holland and that side. How exactly it's coming, I'm not privy to, so I cannot remark about that. But if the drug, the Dutch national was here in Hyderabad and he was arrested, he was certainly not here for sightseeing. And I think now that such a person has been arrested, the police should go hammer and tongs to investigate this case and get to the bottom of not only the manufacturing place which they have been told about, but also the route and the various conduits, because very often these drugs don't come by a direct route. As somebody else was saying, that the large quantity of drugs which are recently caught may not have been meant for India, but for some other country. So, you know, there are set routes, and we have to get to those routes through proper investigation, intelligence, and that's the only way I can think that we can deal with this. But yes, nipping the problem in the bud stage is the best, and certainly any statement about an alternative drug is not going to be helpful at this stage.
Absolutely, very well said. Dr. Eijaz Ilmi, my last question to you. Other than the fact that there are very senior union ministers discussing the possibility of legalizing some drugs, is there any other hope we can have from the government on the Say No to Drugs campaign?
Well, the GOM yesterday discussed various issues, and you just singling out one suggestion that was reported in the media. I don't even know the veracity of the suggestion. Secondly, in terms of prevention, there's a drug policy coming out which is going to clamp down very, very hard on terms of drug reduction. Also, what we missed out is that there's a survey of 6 lakh people who are actually been drug users, both opiates and cannabinoids, which is being conducted by the government of India as of today.
Let me one second. Dr. Ilmi, I'm going to interrupt you for a second because I have visuals coming in right now while we were speaking. Let me just tell you what we're looking at on our screen. 40 lakh rupees worth of heroin seized on the Rajdhani train in Guwahati as we were speaking. How did they get onto the train? How did they get onto the Rajdhani Express? 40 lakh rupees worth of heroin got on a train. Eijaz Ilmi, do I need to have one more debate to talk about how desperate this situation is and how the government needs to be working faster?
The government is seized of the matter. Also, where people who are drug addicts, getting them back into mainstream of society and working on a principle of the whole body recovery system which is why the All-India Institute has been roped in. There's a National Drug Dependence Reduction Institute which is working in tandem. There are drug de-addiction centers being put up near the New Delhi railway station and other railway stations, and complete data is there. The second meeting has taken place. The awareness campaign is kicking in. So you have a whole lot of stuff that the central government
these centers and these kind of committees will not at all make any difference. My dear sir, try to understand. We in the India, we in our country failed with NDPS Act. So much of menace, it means a complete failure of NDPS Act. We need to replace that act with more stringent piece of legislation in Parliament very concretely, without wasting any time in arranging committees and studying the matter. Is enough of the study. Enough of the study. The people, the agency, the intelligence, as is rightly been said on the channel, it has been known from where the drugs are coming, from where they are rooted, and why not to make it anti-national crime as big as anti-national.
So
Singapore is death penalty.
Very valid suggestion, sir. The NDPS Act also has a 10-year clause if you're found in possession, selling and dealing with drugs. So they are stringent acts. It's a question of...
If that was taken seriously, people would not be getting onto the Rajdhani Express with drugs in their bags in this manner. If you're telling me that the NDPS Act is actually taken seriously and this 10-year clause is something people are actually afraid of...
conviction is 20 years.
Then why is this still happening? Why is this still happening? Obviously, it's not being taken seriously enough, Eijaz Ilmi. And to think, and if you're going to tell me, I'm sorry, but I'm fixated at this point, if you're going to tell me there are union ministers who are sitting in the meetings of the GOM suggesting we legalize marijuana, then obviously the government is not seized of the matter. The government doesn't understand how hard people are working on the ground to bust this problem.
I'm sorry, that is misplaced. I'm sorry, that is misplaced. I'm sorry that is misplaced. The drug policy is coming out. There has been a long discussion on this. A lot of us are working, especially after, not only after the media has picked up, but because it's a menace. We have children. We also understand the importance of this entire issue. So there is action coming in terms of awareness, also in changes of drug policy, also de-addiction centers, and dealing with people who are already afflicted. So the government is not going to sit quietly and see our generation wasted, but clamp down very, very hard, both on supplies, in reduction, also in enforcement, and also on cases of people who are already addicted, who need de-addiction, who need to get back into the mainstream and need to be integrated back into the mainstream of society.
Well, that was very eloquently put. Of course, we will need for our government to put this on the top of their priority list, because never has the country faced a more serious threat than we are facing right now when it comes to drug abuse among children and teenagers and the depths to which this rot runs at this point. Rohan Balani on the phone line from Mumbai. Rohan, go ahead.
Hi. Well, I'd like to say that firstly, Mr. Kantawala and Mirror Now are doing a wonderful job by highlighting the issue, the whole issue. Well, it is well known that drug abuse is rampant in India, in Bombay. But the parents are helpless and there's very little that they can do anyway. But I'm happy to know that the government has successfully seized a large consignment of drugs, as I saw on your channel today. And I feel that it is not enough to punish the foot soldiers. Ultimately, the masterminds, the financiers, they are the people that should be exposed. They are the ones that should be prosecuted and punished. And only then will we be able to break the backbone of the drug mafia.
Absolutely. We have one more caller on the phone line. Go ahead. Gaurang. Go ahead, Gaurang.
Yeah, hi, Gaurang here.
Yes.
I'm a former drug addict, and I've researched and written a book on the issue. Even what most of the panelists are saying is probably partly correct. The extent of the problem is much higher, okay, close to around at least between 150 to 200 million people already. Most of the drugs are made, manufactured in India and sold. I can get them in any city 24/7, delivered to my doorstep, and pay by Master or Visa or through banking channels and known platforms. And we are not addressing the demand side as to why people get into drugs. So cracking down on peddlers is, yes, definitely required, but the other issue needs to be tackled, very deeply also. And I've written an open letter.
What is the other issue, Gaurang? What is the other issue that needs to be tackled?
The other issue is, a lot of educators. So there's a psychosexual issue, and a lot of psychiatrists I've visited have corroborated that. And we need to get into a lot of education at younger and younger ages. and not feel shy about that, whether parents or children or teenagers. If we address all of these issues, we will start making a change. Otherwise, so long as there is demand, you will always find suppliers and a way to supply these. So I've put in a 25-point action plan and an open
which you should send to us, email it to us, and we will pass it on to as many people as we can to help it out. Sujay, you wanted to say something?
What Gaurang has said and the action plan, I think should be converted into a PIL, because he has got concrete evidence. He has got a roadmap. He has done research, and that research will help our agencies. That research will help all of us. I think it's a great job that Gaurang, your caller, has done.
I want to go back to our guests in Pune. Before I go to Satish Kulkarni, to the anonymous guest who's in Pune, I want you to help out all of the other families who are listening right now, especially the parents. If a parent wants to be able to catch the problem early, what are the signs with which they will know that their child is using drugs?
So if they find their child is using any kind of drug, so what these drugs do, they're very potent and they're very mood altering. So what a parent needs to be aware is how their pre-morbid personality, how their child was before the use of the drug and how the child has changed after the use of drugs. So there will be a drastic change in the personality. So the person or the child using the drug will become an extreme personality. So extreme personality would be extreme mood swings, extreme anger, extreme anxiety.
Stimulant.
It's a huge stimulant. So what these kids will have is extreme of any emotion. So when parents see this, it should be a definite sign for the parents to take these kids to counseling, because initially counseling will help them get over such mood altering substance.
That was very...
Also, I'd like to add performance in school, antisocial behavior if there are any, and not sharing with parents. These are also small benchmarks which parents should keep an eye on when observing their kids.
Thank you. That was helpful. I just want to bring in Swaranjit Sen. Swaranjit Sen, one of the problems that we had in this country some time ago was an Naxal problem that was weeded out of Andhra Pradesh, at least, with a complete no-tolerance attitude. Is that the kind of attitude that we require right now when it comes to narcotics as well?
Definitely, I think all states and all governments need to treat this as a crisis problem and not only a concern problem, as somebody said on your debate some time earlier. And saying that US has legalized marijuana and it's legalized by 20 states. What about the 35 other states or more who have not done it? So these kind of statements should be totally avoided. And I think the government has to become far more serious and put in agencies who can educate and to whom people can freely go. By the way, I want to tell you that Hyderabad police has got a toll-free number. I don't know how well it is known by everyone. In fact, all schools should know it. It is 1-800-425-2523. 1-800-425-2523. Now this number has to be publicized and every student should know it. And if he or even the parent or anyone observes some deviant behavior in the child, they should immediately share it with this toll-free number so that the police and other agencies who are connected with trying to stop the abuse of the use of drugs, they could get into it and do their job. So this toll-free number, I do not know whether everyone knows. And this somebody else said about 25 points that he has to deal with this problem. That would be very nice, because somebody who's really been into drugs will be much better in telling us how to prevent it, because he himself has come out of it. This is what I would suggest.
Well, those are brilliant suggestions. Recovering addicts who want to help, and a lot of times part of the program of recovery tends to be to give back to society. And one of those things could be to help the police figure out how to stem the problem. On your screen right now is the toll-free helpline that Mr. Sen just gave us. This is the Hyderabad Police Drug Helpline. It's 1-800-425-2523. 1-800-425-2523. which means that if you are in Hyderabad and you notice unusual behavior among children, among teenagers, at street corners, please alert the police. It will go a long way in helping the police nab and solve the problem. We need similar helplines all over the country.
Yes.
We need a larger, wider plan. And if the Hyderabad police has actually worked with such single-minded determination as they have in the last 3 weeks to get to the bottom of the problem, that sort of intelligence needs to be adopted in other parts of the country. So we find out and we learn from the experience in Hyderabad on what to do and how to do it. Sujay, go ahead.
Yeah, in fact, I think all state DGPs should take note of this, and all our states should have helplines, because even identifying or even giving information that there is some activity, drug activity outside a school or in some lane, that also can be informed, and we can assist the police because we are all part of society. And let us hope that Suits becomes the #1 serial rather than Escobar, which is being watched.
Okay. I have one quick call on the phone line. Vineet is on the phone line from Shimla. Vineet, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. I think very valid inputs have been made by everybody on the panel. And I personally feel very strongly about the subject. I don't think it is just one state or a movie that has brought this into limelight, but probably it's an entire generation that is at risk. This is not something that we can do very easily with, in terms of just talking about whether the police has done its job or not, whether the laws are efficient or not. But I think one doesn't need a war to destroy a country. One doesn't even need fake currency to destroy the economy. This is the entire next generation. That is our future. That is at the risk of getting totally destroyed. And personally, I feel so strongly that a law which is as stringent as probably the Tata law should be introduced for anybody who's indulging, peddling and promoting this.
Which is what we were talking about. Perhaps a more stringent law that is better.
NDPS is there. The very stringent punishment is there, but on a technicality, these people get out. The law is very technical, because you can only get conviction in the procedure established by law. If that procedure is not followed by even one P in a Panchnama, the person who is caught red-handed gets scot-free. So that is the difficulty which I'm sure these agencies are facing, and which Mr. Sen echoed.
Right. Bajari sir, do you also agree that we need stronger laws?
Yes.
Or we need better enforcement?
I always say that we need stronger laws. As Advocate Kantawala, my friend, has brought it very nicely, that there are certain procedural laws which ultimately helps the accused to get scot-free. Those also should be plugged in properly. And we need to redraft the procedural aspects also. Why not to have a special fast-track courts for it with a different procedure? We have fast-track network, but you know, the CRPC is not going fast-track. The procedure we kept the same way. So we, for that purpose, also require a collective effort, as part of a collective effort, to amend the particular procedural aspects also in that. That small procedure lapse here and there, the man should not go scot-free. No doubt human right is there, we have democracy and everything, but above all, we have a young generation at the point of threat that they are finishing psychologically. Gaurang has brought very good points, and that all these are saying, plugging all these things, but we also need to take care of child psychology. We should have enough psychologists, we should have enough rehabilitation center. For that, I think the model of Portugal, which can be explained in detail, that how they have tackled this problem, and they are well ahead in the whole world. Before even America could do much, Portugal has done a fantastic job. They have supplied, in fact, supplied the drugs to the children, knowing that this is the age of curiosity and there is a quality of thought concept is always there. But slowly, slowly, they removed out that concept and they have treated whole generations psychologically. I think we need to have a collective effort from all dimensions, from law, for enforcement, from cracking the whips legally very correctly, plus to have education, training of our forces and people at large, parents at large, education institution, and most of the themes should be grilled towards the center of child psychology, which is the most dangerous volatile
Nambiar,
age.
what do you need as a parent? What do you need right now?
Yeah, I think on a long term we can do a lot of things like developing psychology, or I would really vouch for a spiritual enrichment where we have conversations and orient children. We talk about IQs and EQs, but everybody shies away from talking about SQ. What is the spiritual quotient of people today? How strong is your conscience? I wish, just like your Swachh Bharat campaign, you have a reviving your conscience campaign among people, both inside the home and in the society. But on an immediate basis, Afe, I really wish there was more accountability from the agencies. I don't think there's a lack of laws in the country. There are enough laws. But what we are not seeing at all is action. Something like the passport office, where they give you a constant update of what's the status of your passport. I wish there were constant updates on every government agency giving an update to the citizen. I love it when the PM says, I am your Pradhan Sevak. The government is supposed to be seva for the citizens, right? Aren't you accountable for us?
Yes.
So why don't you have some kind of an updation on your website saying this is the issue? I would like a Child Rights Commission giving me a report and an update on what they have done on drug abuse, rather than a Gaurang or citizen somewhere who has to sit and do the research.
Yes, that's really well said, because we're getting a lot of responses on involve.in where someone says legalizing drugs will make it easier to get drugs because it costs 100 rupees to get a medical certificate. That doesn't solve the problem, it makes it worse. Ayurvedic hospitals will hand out marijuana, and that is going to turn into a huge problem. The cannabis cash crop is ailing our farmers. It says the history of this entire ban should be looked up. This is Abhishek who says that. But I just want to point out one thing. All of the way you handle a problem, whether that is the legal agencies of the people who are... Yes, Mr. Kulkarni, go ahead.
Yeah. I will speak in Hindi. Hello. Hello.
हाँ, बोलिए सर.
हाँ, अभी आजकल जो घर में है, मियाँ और बीवी दोनों पैसा कमाते हैं, उनके बच्चे को वो टाइम नहीं दे पाते, इसके लिए वो लोग पैसा देते हैं और वो पैसे का मिसयूज हो रहा है. हेलो, कैन यू हियर मी?
Mr. Kulkarni, I'm very grateful for your analysis of what happens in our homes. What you mean to say is that women are working. When you say मियाँ बीवी दोनों काम कर रहे हैं, आपका मतलब ये है कि औरतों को काम नहीं करनी चाहिए, औरतों को घर पे रुकनी चाहिए. No. I'm sorry, Mr. Kulkarni, I refuse to accept this. The only difference between the previous generation and this generation is that mothers are working, and mothers are working because school fees are too expensive to pay with one salary. It's too difficult to run a house with one salary, and you will not blame this on us. You will not make us feel like selfish parents who are working and earning money and don't care about the welfare of our children. Do you know why children are getting addicted to drugs? Because the drugs are being allowed to enter the country. Do you know why children are getting addicted to drugs? Because the drugs are being allowed to be sold at the corners of streets near schools. Because people who are supposed to be doing their jobs are not doing their jobs. Do not blame it on the women of this country. The women of this country work really hard. And you should be grateful if you have a woman in your house who is lifting half the burden and going out and working and also coming home and also running a house. How dare you? How dare you blame the women? What easy, low-hanging fruit of you. I'll tell you who to blame. You should blame... No, Mr. Kulkarni. You should blame news channels who spend all their time talking about Pakistan instead of talking about the real problem that our country is facing.
Exactly.
That's whom you should blame. You should blame a government who spends more time on cow slaughter regulations than spending time on enforcement of narcotics and spending time talking and spending time finding intelligence. You should blame government agencies who spend the time that they have inside of a government meeting on stopping drugs, on talking about legalizing it. These are the people you should blame. These are the messages that have to be sent by the top of this country to the bottom of the country so that every police officer realizes what is priority. Is saving the cow priority or is saving our children priority? And I will not allow anybody to come onto this panel and blame the women of this country. I'm sorry. That is not okay. That's not acceptable. I won't let it happen. There is a clear responsibility set out for who's responsible for this country, and those people need to take responsibility. If we don't talk about these problems, we will continue to believe that Pakistan is our greatest threat. This is our greatest threat. And the quicker we realize it as a country, the quicker we support the police officers in Hyderabad who are doing a good job, the quicker we will be from saving an entire generation of loss. This is the true threat. This is what we need to fight. And I promise you that we will focus on this until it takes, and whatever it takes, to get a reaction from the government. Thanks for watching.